Have you heard about this new trend that sees the entire Lorcana community uniting to put the pieces together? We're talking puzzle theory. So, what is puzzle theory? I mean, it's so popular right now that even JDZ brought it up during the latest Lorecast, and ever since then, it's continued to trend throughout the entire community. Well, before we actually get into it, let me give you a little bit of backstory. So, all the way back in January at the London Toy Fair, Ravensburger came out and announced that they would be making Lorcana puzzles. 6 puzzles to be exact, one for each ink color. They would be 1,000-piece puzzles representing the amber, amethyst, emerald, all the ink colors, and so on. And each one of these puzzles would showcase different glimmers that went along with those ink colors. And collectors rejoiced because it was also announced that each one of these puzzles would include a promo card. It's pretty wild to think that the foundation for this partnership started all the way back in 1964. 1964, I don't know what you're thinking. That's crazy. Crazy long time ago, right? But no, for real, hear me out. It was in 1964 that Disney released Mary Poppins, which would go on to win 5 Academy Awards. During that same year, Ravensburger, on the other hand, was releasing their very first jigsaw puzzle. So even though their paths may have differed, some 61 years later, we are now seeing the fruit of the labors of both of those companies coming together, crossing paths at this exact point, and producing these Lorcana puzzles, these puzzles based upon a TCG that neither company would have ever dreamt would exist. So what do these puzzles look like? Let's take a look for ourselves. So right here, you can see a screenshot from the 2nd anniversary panel that was just recently took place at Gen Con. So here we got a further announcement of the puzzles and what they would look like, and you can see the Amber, Emerald, Ruby, and Sapphire puzzles. You can also see the promo card that will be released alongside all of these puzzles, and thankfully, or at least to some, thankfully, it is all the same promo in every one, so you don't have to sit there and buy every puzzle to get all of the promo cards if you're one of those collectors that has to have it all. But it will include the Mickey Mouse True Friend. It was also announced that these 1,000-piece puzzles would be released near the end of August at Destination D23. So be on the lookout for more there as Ryan Miller appears at Destination D23 and showcases these just a little bit more, and maybe we'll see even more Lorcana news. But that brings us to the main topic at hand. What is puzzle theory? What is going on within the community? And what is puzzle theory all about? Well, for starters, the first thing you need to know is approximately 3 weeks from the time of the recording of this video, we will be getting Set 9 Fabled. And with it, we will be getting reprints for the very first time. So those reprinted cards, and I believe that there are 171 in this set, a lot of illumineers out there believe that these puzzles may actually hide and showcase a lot of the reprinted cards that we will be getting. And from a marketing point of view, I mean, that makes total sense. I mean, Fabled is all about bringing in new players. So if you're going to have this collector's item out showcasing different glimmers from this game, it only makes sense that you would want to showcase glimmers that are actually part of the game, not ones that have been rotated out already, right? And I think a lot of illumineers are seeing it that way as well. So every time that we've been getting these little trickle and domino effects of cards being revealed that are being reprinted, every time one is, and it matches up with one of the glimmers that we see on these puzzles, everybody in unison throughout the entire community, it's puzzle theory confirmed, right? So let's take a look at some of these puzzles and some of the glimmers that we've seen. And again, I don't have an exact list in front of me, and not every card has been revealed at this time, but we do know some. So right off the rip, if we go ahead and we look at this amber one just a little bit closer here, we see Moana, and we already know that Moana is going to be reprinted, and we have Be Our Guest, which we're already aware of, and then even here we have the Surfer Stitch. Such a cool card. So then if we move on over to Emerald, Emerald scares me to death, if I'm being honest, because the very first thing that I see here is the Muses. And the Muses is a terrifying card. Not in the sense that it's like super overpowered, but if I'm being honest, I always struggle playing against the Muses. So if Puzzle Theory is real and the Muses are set to return, I'm not sure how I feel about it. If we're being honest, I don't think any of these Emerald Glimmers here have been shown off as being reprinted yet, but still, the Muses and the idea of them returning really does scare me. But these bottom two, though, are probably the biggest pieces of evidence that we have so far. Starting here with Ruby, you see Maleficent Dragon right on the cover of this puzzle. And we already know that Maleficent Dragon is returning. Not only is she returning, but she will actually be the set championship card, and there will be a special championship playmat that includes this Maleficent Dragon as well. It's a beautiful, beautiful playmat, and if you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. We also know that both Shere Khan will be returning, as well as this Rapunzel here has already been shown off. I believe it was maybe today or yesterday that she was revealed as being returned. And something really, really cool to keep an eye out on. Maybe it's cool, maybe it's not. It depends on who you are. But if Puzzle Theory is true and it doesn't end up being debunked, and we're right, and every one of these glimmers do return as reprinted cards, right here in the back, hidden away and tucked away in between Maleficent Dragon's tail and wings, we see Be Prepared. So be prepared to see that return if Puzzle Theory is real. Then moving on over to the Sapphire puzzle. Hades, the cover star here for the Sapphire puzzle, not only will he be returning, but to the delight and enjoyment of my Ink Table podcast co-host, Preston, who is an absolutely crazy Blurple player, and he loves anything that runs in that Blurple package. He is absolutely in love with the new Enchanted Hades that we just now recently saw that will be coming in Fabled. We also see one of my favorites, Alice Growing Girl, which means my support deck isn't going anywhere. And then another big one here is Aurora. So we were actually in attendance at Gen Con as the Illumineers, and Aaron and Liam actually revealed that this Aurora will be returning in Fabled. So again, we see these puzzles, and you turn around every time something is now revealed from community creators or Ravensburger themselves, and we see cards are being reprinted, and if it matches up with any of these puzzles, we're checking boxes and checking the glimmers off, and it's automatically Puzzle Theory confirmed. So what about the other two puzzles? Because we talked about Amber, we talked about Emerald, we talked about Ruby and Sapphire. So Amethyst and Still are kind of special puzzles because it was announced that Ravensburger themselves will not be selling those two, but they will be Disney exclusives that would be revealed later on. I believe they've already been, well, I know they've already been revealed at this point. We'll cover those next. But it's important to know that whenever these do release later on at Destination D23, that if you want the Amethyst or the Still puzzle, you will only be able to get them from Disney-owned and operated places such as the parks, Disney stores, or online vendors. So let's take a look at those Amethyst and Still puzzles, shall we? Because if I'm being quite honest, if I was to buy a single one of these puzzles, it would probably be this Amethyst puzzle here. Right away, there are some standout key pieces that we already know are returning. One of which is this song here, Second Star to the Right. You also see Winnie the Pooh Honey Wizard here, who we know is getting an Enchanted in Fabled. And you see this Belle Mystic down here. Not only will she be returning, but it was also announced that there is a new way to play the game in the form of Collection Quest. And if you're visiting Disney California Adventure anytime around the time that Fabled releases on August 29th, that you could participate in the Collection Quest over at Beast Castle, and you could get a special promo with this Belle with a new special promo icon on the bottom called their Magical Places icon, which looks just like a Disney castle on the bottom of it. One standout card here, though, for me, has to be this Arthur Sorcerer's Apprentice. This is one of my favorite cards. If you followed me anywhere, you know that this is a card that I've always enjoyed and always advocated for. And with us not seeing anything from the Bounce package returning yet, so no Mims, no Merlins, we haven't seen Fox, Snake, Goat, Rabbit, or anything of that sort, If we're not getting them at all, I would still absolutely love Arthur here, who quest for one, and then when you do, you may return one of your characters to your hand, and if you do that, you get 2 more lore on top of it. So it's kind of the bounce package. It's got a little bit of that mechanic built in, but instead of on play, it's when he quests. Still a really, really great card that I've always played. I think it's great for aggro. You can have stuff like this 1-drop Maleficent here who quests for 2, have her quest, have Arthur quest, and then return her to your hand in order to keep her safe. But moving on here, we also have this still puzzle, which is also really, really, really beautiful. And so far, I believe we have seen that this Tinkerbell Tiny Tactician will be reprinted. Hercules here will be reprinted, and also the Aerial Sonic Warrior, who was also revealed at Gen Con, will be returning. One card in particular, though, or one glimmer on here that stands out that could very well debunk all of puzzle theory is this one right here in Whole New World, because we already know that Whole New World will not be returning in Fabled. But the community is also making an argument that Whole New World will still be reprinted. It might not return in Fabled, but we already know that we are getting reprinted versions of Whole New World in December at the Infinity events that will be taking place at LGS's worldwide. So yeah, that's the premise of it. The idea that we have these puzzles and there are glimmers showcased on them, and the community truly thinks that as reprints are revealed, that all of them in the end will be represented in these puzzles. Is it true? Is puzzle theory actually confirmed? Again, by the time you see this video, or by the time it actually is uploaded, maybe puzzle theory will already be debunked. Or maybe time will still tell, and we'll just have to wait and see. But what if I told you that's only the first part of puzzle theory? That maybe, just maybe, there's something more. Just a little bit deeper if you were to look, which some sleuths, some Lorcana sleuths across the internet have looked just a little bit further. And now I'm here to share with you the second half to puzzle theory. That second half that not very many people know about. Something very important that could play a role not only in Fabled, but possibly future sets of Lorcana. So let's look back here at this Amethyst puzzle real quick, because I was actually at Gen Con in a Airbnb with the rest of the Ink Table crew when Disney revealed the Amethyst and Still puzzles for the first time. And when they did, I went and looked at this, and I immediately spotted something that stood out to me. And what it is this right here. This is clearly not a character glimmer of any sort. It's not an action, but it is something we've seen before. This is an ink caster. And not just any ink caster. It is the ink caster belonging to Shanzi, one of the 3 main illumineers whose story we have been following since the first chapter. Let's get one last good look at it, and then I'm going to switch over to a different piece of art that actually shows this. Okay, so right here we have a piece of art that was revealed along Arcasia's island. And in it, we can see those 3 main protagonist illumineers in Shanzi, Martin, and Venturo, each one with their very own unique ink casters. You see Venturo here has his Gauntlet ink caster that holds both sapphire and ruby ink. And then Shanzi, the one we were talking about previously, has an ink caster that has amethyst and still. And Martin over here with his guitar that he played in order to open the book that had Ursula in it has amber and emerald. Remember these ink casters and remember these illumineers, because we're going to further talk about them real quick. So yeah, this immediately stood out to me as Shanzi's ink caster, but that was later confirmed whenever I ran across some other photos on the internet that have recently been revealed that show these puzzles off just a little bit better. Here, for example, you can actually see the entire key art that shows way more than the actual box cover for the puzzle does of what you'll actually be seeing within that puzzle. So if you look here, you see the entire full art. Compare that to this that has Belle and Sorcerer Mickey and a lot of Shanzi's hand completely blocked off. But this for sure, you can tell that this is Shanzi's staff and this is her hand with her painted nails holding her own ink caster here. So that begs the question, if we see an ink caster in this puzzle, is there an ink caster in the other puzzles as well? Let's take a look. First, let's look at Amber, which here you can see Martin. You can even see his wavy red hair and his beanie and his fingers strumming his guitar ink caster, represented by the amber ink color. And if we look over at the Sapphire puzzle, you can actually see Venturo in his gauntlet. And yeah, it is a sapphire and ruby ink that he wields, but particularly in this puzzle, it is showcasing that sapphire element to it. So what about the other three? Well, let's start with Emerald, because Emerald also has an ink caster that we've already seen. This ink caster here. Where have we seen this? Well, that ink caster would be the hidden ink caster, which in the story belonged to none other than Arcasia herself, who we have learned is also a illumineer. Again, take one great big look here at the hidden ink caster, and then we'll return on over, and you can see it again here with Arcasia actually holding the hidden ink caster. So what about the final two? What about Ruby and Still? Let's look at Ruby first, because if we look, you see another ink caster right here being held by someone. And this is an ink caster that we have not seen before. It kind of looks like a pen of some sort that someone would write with. And we have no clue who this belongs to, what Illumineer is holding it, or even if it's one of the original 3 Illumineers that we've seen before. Same goes for Still. If we look, we see another ink caster here, kind of similar to Arcasia's hidden ink caster, but it almost takes on more of a scythe element. And it almost looks like feminine hands, two hands here, holding the ink caster out. It really does kind of look like a really long scythe-looking ink caster with a female reaching her hands out and just holding them out. And so far, we know that primarily the only female Illumineer that we have that we're keeping track of within the story is Shanzi, and we've already seen her ink caster. Yeah, she does wield both Amethyst and Still, so there is a possibility that this is her, but there's also a possibility that these two, the Ruby ink caster and this Still ink caster, belong to Illumineers who we have not seen before. So these two other ink casters, the Ruby ink caster and the Still ink caster, I truly believe belong to Illumineers who we have not seen before. But maybe, just maybe, we have heard of them. And in the long run, maybe they will play a bigger role into Lorcana's future, but also have played a role in Lorcana's past. What do I mean by that? Well, let me show you two things that I've been keeping an eye on for quite a while. Starting in Arcasia's Island, we actually started receiving lore cards, which further explained and went into detail about the actual story of Lorcana. There were 20 of these lore cards in each pack, or throughout different packs, and you could collect them, and together, not only would they make a cute little flip book, but they would cohesively tell you a story. Number 13 here from Arcasia's Island is one in particular that really stands out to me. So if we read it, it says, "It's nice to have a friend again, especially a fellow Illumineer," said Arcasia. Then she added, so low that Shanzi could barely hear, "Maybe this time it will go better." So it's really, really important to notice here that Arcasia is a fellow Illumineer, which means she is also a Illumineer, which explains her having the hidden ink caster. But it's also to note that she says it's nice to have a friend again, as if she's had friends in the past who were also illumineers. But then she adds softly, as if she doesn't want Shanzi to hear her because she is still apprehensive of the working with the illumineers this time around. But she adds, maybe this time it will go better, as if something bad went wrong the first time she was working with illumineers. This is really, really important because I truly don't think Ravensburger would add little details like this if it weren't important. And not only do we get hints at Arcasia's past here, but it's then continued the following set. So here we have a lore card from Reign of Jafar, the most recent set that just released. Card number 18 to be exact. So if we read this one, it says, Arcasia wistfully watched their exchange and closed her eyes. I never should have let things fester with my friend long ago, she said in a low voice, squaring her shoulders and looked at Shanzi. No matter, how can we trick him long enough to distract him from his efforts? So right in the heat of battle, of them plotting and planning to take back the crown and plotting out the palace heist and how they would take on Jafar and get the crown back and save Arcasia's island, she is still taking a moment here to look back at something that happened in the past with one of her previous friends. So, with that being said, could this still Inkcaster, or potentially even this Ruby Inkcaster, belong to one of the Illumineers from Arcasia's past that she's worked with before when something went wrong? This is definitely something that I'll be keeping an eye out for later on in the future as other sets come out and we learn more about Arcasia's past. I know right now within Fabled, they're actually taking a break from the main overarching story, and that's not going to pick up or continue until set 10 when Whispers in the Well comes out. So it'll be interesting to see more of what happens then, and I'm excited to make future videos talking about Whispers in the Well and some other theories that I have to go along with it. But until then, if you've enjoyed this video, and maybe I've taught you something whenever it comes to the second half of Puzzle Theory, then consider liking, following, or subscribing. Or if you like this content, or just like Lorcana content in general, then hey, why don't you come check out the Ink Table Podcast? It's this other little project that I co-host along with Preston McNair and our producer John Meadows, where we talk and laugh at everything Disney and everything Lorcana. We recently got back from Gen Con, where we got to attend the second anniversary panel. We got to see a lot of the card reveals, and we got to participate in tons of events, including Collection Quest. We have tons of videos for you to come check out over here at the Ink Table Podcast YouTube. We have an entire podcast episode that we just now released that talks about our entire experience hanging out with the community and other content creators and some behind-the-scene things that you're not going to get anywhere else. Also consider stopping by and checking out our Discord that we have. It's the place where the table talk never ends. Even if you're not at your weekly LGS or you're not watching one of these videos, you can still interact with other Illumineers from all over the world, all in one place, nonstop, 24/7, every day of the week. And you can be like Kira or BR Quest, who are major parts of the official Disney Lorcana story and lore pages within Lorcana's Discord, and who have migrated over to our Discord, and we talk lore and story over here all the time. Again, thank you for watching. Please take the time to like, subscribe, comment. Let me know which one of the puzzles that you might pick up. And until next time, keep telling your story.